Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 348. Well, the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family is skulking around in the middle of the night, creeping around the palace, trying to plot and trying to plead his way back into royalty. So this sniveling little rat is running around Windsor, running around Buckingham Palace, trying to weasel his way right back in to public life as a working royal. That's according to a report out of The Sun. And I think I've been pretty clear about how I feel about that, right? The guy is not fit to represent royalty. He's not fit to represent the people of England. And he certainly is not the type of person that anyone who is in their right mind could want as a representative of anything that they're involved in, right? And it's just, he has been nothing but dishonest this whole entire time, not forthcoming. And I've said it a million times, even if you didn't believe Virginia's story, even if this guy was just hanging out with Epstein and acting as an enabler, say that was all that was going on. Do you really think that is not enough for him to have to leave public life to show that sort of bad judgment? If it's good enough for all of these mega rich leaders around the world and these mega rich financiers around the world, what makes him any different? Why should he play by a different set of rules? Well, what, because he was born as royalty? That shit went out a long time ago, okay? And it doesn't have any bearing in the real world. And moving forward, one thing I'm pretty confident about is that the people of the world, the 99% of us that didn't win the genetic lottery and happened to be born to a royal bloodline, well, we're no longer going to elevate you. We're no longer going to worship you. And we're certainly no longer going to look the other way while you commit major crimes. And Prince Andrew has done nothing but exploit his position of wealth, his position of power, and his position of privilege. And those are just the facts, folks. All right, so, like I said, we have an article from The Sun. Headline, Prince of Darkness. Prince Andrew makes secret night visits to the Queen as he plots public return. Makes him sound like a real scuzzball, right? Secret night visits to the Queen. Why are you making secret night visits to the Queen? The fact that you have to skulk about in the dark like a common crook, like a regular old criminal, should tell the tale, Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. You should be able to do this all out in the open. In the light of day, you should walk into the palace with your head held high. If you're an innocent man, that's what you would be doing. But instead, you hide behind your PR team, and after your disastrous-ass interview with Emily Maitlis, the last thing you want to do is sit down with somebody seasoned who is going to walk your ass right into a perjury trap. This article was authored by Matt Wilkinson. His latest nighttime trip to Windsor Castle took place Tuesday. The scandal-hit prince is said to be confident he will be cleared of any wrongdoing over his links to dead pedophile pal Jeffrey Epstein and is arranging a comeback. Well, to be cleared of the things that you're being accused of, you have to speak to the authorities under oath and give a statement, and not a written statement, an actual real deposition, sit for one, just like Ghislaine did, just like Jeffrey Epstein did, and just like the rest of the people who were involved are about to have to do. You do not get any special privileges because you're a prince. All right? You're a moron, and you took part in abusing someone who was being trafficked. Yeah, that is the allegation that is sitting over your head. And if you think that you're just going to show up and you're going to arrange a comeback like you're, a boxer who retired for 5 years and then decided the time is right to come back and pursue the belt again, well, you're not going to be met with the reception you're looking for. There is a very small minority of people, Prince Andrew, who want you in their airspace. Nobody wants to share air with you at this point. You know, who flies across the Atlantic Ocean to break up, quote unquote, with a guy like Jeffrey Epstein? And then who has the audacity to try and say that staying at Epstein's house was just a very convenient thing for him? A very, really? That is what you're going to pitch us, right? That the Prince of England couldn't get anywhere else to stay, so he had to stay on his buddy's couch. He was couch surfing. That's what Prince Andrew does when he's on trips, I guess. He just couch surfs around the world, or if he's in Mongolia, he goes from yurt to yurt. Typical stuff. This guy is always staying in 5-star hotels. Who is he kidding? He's not having sleepovers with his buddy Epstein. They're not building forts in the living room. What do you think they were doing when they were hanging out? Andy, 60, held a COVID-secure meeting with the Queen, 94, last week, arriving after dark. One insider said, this looked like a deliberate attempt not to be seen. Yeah, skulking about like Ghislaine Maxwell. What an absolute joke. How the mighty have fallen. He could say whatever he wants, and he can try and spin it whatever way he wants, but the fact is, you're a prince of the blood, and you're skulking about at night like a common thief to go see your mom because the fallout over your ties and your relationship and the allegations that are presented against you, you have become an absolute pariah, so bad that you have to sneak around at night. He quit senior royal duties last November after his car crash, Hindenburg crash, Newsnight interview. The Duke denies allegations he slept with Epstein's 17-year-old sex slave, Virginia Roberts. Yeah, of course he's going to deny that, right? Why would he not deny that? And just so we're clear, I don't think Prince Andrew is a pedophile. I've never said that once in my life. I know Jeffrey Epstein's a pedophile, but Prince Andrew is just one of these weird-ass, horny-ass dudes, right? I don't think he was, looking for children. I don't think he's out prowling for 14-year-old girls like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were. But that doesn't mean I don't think he would partake in this sex ring, being an absolute doofus that he is. Oh yeah, my good friend Jeffrey is hooking me up. And then bam, caught up in the blackmail ring. That's what I think is going on with Prince Andrew. He's just one of these horny-ass, weird-ass dudes that can't get enough. And Jeffrey Epstein was the perfect man for him to be around. And he trusted in Epstein. He trusted in Maxwell. He got caught up in this whole sex trafficking blackmail ring. And here we are. But he doesn't have enough honor to say that. He's not honorable enough to talk about that, right? This guy is an absolute buffoon. I think that is the best description for the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. An absolute buffoon. He's also been dragged into Epstein's ex-lover Ghislaine Maxwell's prosecution and is set to feature heavily in the New York trial next year. Palace officials deny any formal talks about a return. As for the New York trial next year, I plan on being there. As of right now, I'll be arriving in New York in July, roughly 3 or 4 days before the trial starts. And as most of you know, I'm from New York originally. I have family there, so I'm going to set up shop at one of my relatives' places and head on down every day and cover the case right there on scene as the trial is actually happening. Because I can't wait for all of this to come to its conclusion. I can't wait for there to be prosecutions and indictments of the co-conspirators and those who helped facilitate this. And I can't wait to, get this in our rear view mirror and move on. And for the survivors to be able to get that closure and for them to move on. And the source said what he wants and what the family are prepared to discuss are probably at odds. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, let's be real. Does anyone really think that Prince Andrew is going to be accepted by the royals at this point? I mean, these guys are absolutely, positively on their heels as it is. Never mind the fact that Prince Andrew and his activities are adding even more burden to the Queen and to the rest of the royals. But the guy is just an oaf. Every single time you turn around, every single time there's a situation, every single time the guy has a chance to come out and do the right thing, it's always the same story with the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. More BS, more obfuscation, and more lies. And I don't know how anyone can deny that at this point. Do his actions mimic those of an innocent man? That's what I always ask myself about these people. Do their actions mimic that of an innocent man or woman? And a lot of times for these people, they just don't pass the sniff test for me. Now, does that mean that they're 100% guilty? Of course not. This is my opinion. That's what I do here. This is a news commentary show. I narrate what's going on in this case. We talk about it, and I give you folks my opinion. And that is and I am of that opinion in this matter. And I think that Prince Andrew and his involvement with Ghislaine Maxwell, his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, and his just continued behavior is enough to warrant him not being part of a working royal situation. And I find it hard to believe, even though Andrew would like to get it out there in the public that there's these meetings going on for him to come back. I don't believe it, honestly. I mean, he might have a soft spot in the Queen's heart, but how about his brother? How about his nephew? I think that those are the people we need to be focusing on as far as who's going to be making the decisions, right? Because the Queen, God, I hope anything happens to her anytime soon or anything like that, but she's an older woman, right? And you have to start looking at the future when your monarch is that old. Both of the monarchs are that old. And the future is Andrew's older brother, who I highly doubt, as a new sovereign, as a new monarch, would want to start off his reign with that sort of stigma hanging over him. The sort of stigma of, oh yeah, well, I'm just going to see my little brother right back into polite society, right back into being a working royal, without him answering for these allegations, without him having to answer for what is being charged against him. So I highly doubt the Crown Prince would want anything to do with that. So I find all of this more disinformation, folks. And there's a lot of times that we'll see this, I think, moving forward with these people who have PR teams around them, people who are trying to manipulate the narrative, change the narrative, control the narrative. You'll see them release disinformation into the public sphere. And we saw the same thing with Ghislaine Maxwell, right? We saw her using LG as a mouthpiece to pump shit into to the Sun, and then in return the Sun would report on it as if it was from a reliable source. But it is obvious LG was not a reliable source. She was being used as a mouthpiece, kind of like Baghdad Bob when the United States was rolling into Baghdad, right? Everything's okay here. There's no American tanks outside. Meanwhile, a barrage of shells is falling around the city, and it's obvious from the pictures that he's lying. And it was the same thing when Ghislaine was going off about the disinformation. You notice we don't hear about her hacked emails anymore, right? They didn't bring that up at trial, did they? You would think that would be a pretty important thing that would be brought up, but nobody was talking about that. And I said at the time, those emails weren't hacked. That was a shot across the bow for Ghislaine Maxwell to let everybody know that she has the keys to where all the skeletons are buried. And if she goes down, she's taking people down with her. And I'm still convinced of that. That is definitely what I think was occurring there. And I think that that's what Andrew's trying to do here. I think he's trying to convolate the narrative a bit, make it confused, make people think, oh, well, there are people who are championing Andrew. Maybe he isn't as guilty as we thought. But unfortunately, for the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, he's not bright enough to pull it off. So, Fredo, you're not welcome to become a working royal again. You're not welcome in civilized society. And you're certainly not welcome as a representative of the English people. Do yourself a favor, get a hobby, hang out on your little piece of land you got there, and wait for your turn to speak to the FBI. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode, including the PayPal link, is in the description box. As for me, I will be back tomorrow morning, and we'll see what sort of nonsense these bipedal serpents have in store for us. Hope you folks all have a great night.